Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Perspective. We'll be talking about the PM's visit to Balochistan, his vigilance and his visit of the flood-hit areas. What can we expect from his visit? What relief efforts have been undertaken? Which areas have been affected? A little later on, we'll also be talking about, of course, this speaker slot, which has in the Punjab Assembly. Further to that, we've seen legal recourse by the PMLN. What can we expect from there? We'll also be talking about the resignations of the National Assembly and whether these, what will happen as far as these resignations are concerned. Are we expecting by-polls? All of that today on Perspective. I have with me Barrister Yasir Lateef Hamdani, who's a legal expert. Thank you for joining us. Ali Salman, who's an economic expert. Thank you for being with us. And Asif Mahmood, who is a political analyst. Thank you for joining us. We'll also be talking to Shahid Rind, who is a senior journalist, to hear about what's happening as far as Balochistan is concerned, the PM's visit is concerned, and the overall situation in the flood-hit areas. Ji, Shahid Saab, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm hearing.
Ji, what is the overall situation, as far as the PM's visit is concerned? We've also seen him take notice of what's happening as far as the relief efforts are concerned. Can you update us a little bit about what's happening?
If I say what's happening is right now, currently, provincial government has failed to relieve and rescue the flood-affected areas and the people who are suffering from these recent monsoon spell floods. These visits can not change the miseries of the people who are badly affected due to this monsoon spell, and the situation is all over the Balochistan. If we say the Job and Loralai, the Pashtun districts, and on other side, Gwadar from Lasbela, each and every area of the province is badly hit. It's not from 1 to 2 districts. It's about all over the Balochistan, and the main road connectivities are damaged. Karachi-Quetta road is suspend traffic from last 3 to 4 days. But the issue is, government is least interested, provincial government, to work on war footing basis. They are busy in official visits and utilizing the resources in the official visits and the VIP visits. I think this will not change the miseries of the local people.
As far as, as far as the limitations, or you're saying, according to you, the ineptitude as far as the provincial government is concerned, that aside, you don't think the visit of the Prime Minister is going to make a difference? Because we've seen, as if you look at the performance as far as Shehbaz Sharif Saab is concerned, back in 2010, we saw how he actively undertook, relief efforts in southern Punjab, in Sindh also. He was quite active in those areas. He was, very vigilant. He did undertake the relief efforts himself under his own supervision. You think this visit is going to yield something for the people at this time, people who are suffering, people who are, of course, the land, the cattle, all of that, overall the situation on the ground? One would expect the PM's visit to make a difference, right?
I think if we say we wish to see a difference after this visit, but the issue is which losses we have seen here in Balochistan. These are, I think, more than the provincial government resources. Provincial government is not in a situation to relieve and rescue the people and overcome the losses which we have on the main highways and the damaged dams. I think federal government must need to consider for a package. Prime Minister by himself visit today, and he has seen all the situation. After this, I think if we go for a package, some sort of development or rehabilitation package, which will be need of the hour this time for Balochistan.
What do you think the federal government can do, after, of course, we've seen the NFC award and all of that? What measures can the government federation take as far as relief is concerned? It certainly, of course, primarily falls within the ambit of
After 18th Amendment, more responsibility is on province. But we know Balochistan government, what is the situation of Balochistan government right now? We know that after 18th Amendment, we did nothing in Balochistan to the capacity building of the institutions and the province. federal government can do one thing, which is need of the hour this time, to at least connect all the provincial national highways to other cities and other area of countries, which is under NHA, National Highway Authority. I think Karachi-Quetta road is still suspended. Quetta to Nasirabad area is badly disturbed in the Bolan area. I think this can be very important for federal government to do these things and connect the road connectivity. If Balochistan will be connected again with other cities of the country, then I think relief and rescue work will also
what about
be
the relief
expedited.
being undertaken by the army at this time? Of course, you know, we've seen them also take a lot of relief measures there. Can you update us a little bit about that?
If there will be no army and the frontier corps in the relief and rescue work, then I think people will be more in a trouble situation. The only hope is right now in Balochistan, in this flood-affected area, that is the relief work which is going on by levies, which is a local force, and the Frontier Constabulary and Pakistan Army 12th Corps. Otherwise, Provincial Disaster Management Authority is just utilizing their resources as a utility store corporation for giving food items and the rations. But how to manage the disaster, they have no experience for it.
Shahid Sahib, you think that, I mean, there is, of course, you know, in a sense, the kind of floods that happened, there was some anticipation in the sense that there was some, I mean, it was expected, right? It's not completely unexpected. And, you know, the kind of devastation that we've seen, of course, is, you know, perhaps more than what the government was expecting. But in a sense, they could have been better prepared. That's what you're essentially saying?
As far as these kind of situations are concerned, I think every second or third year, we face snowfall, heavy snowfall, flood from last, I think, 2010, we are facing this is from second to third time. But the issue is the Provincial Disaster Management Authority, which is called PDMA. They not prepare themselves as a disaster management authority. They just consider their department as a utility stores corporation to stock the ration and food items, and this kind of situation, they just try to distribute these food and tent items. But how to control, how to evacuate people, they have no resources for this. They have no training for this.
Right. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for your update, Shahid Sahib. We're going to talk to Farah Azim Shah, who's spokesperson Balochistan government, to ask her. Farah, I don't know if you've heard what Shahid Rinsab was telling us from Balochistan, but there seems to be a lot, you know, hinging on the efforts that the Balochistan government is making and the provincial government itself taking a lot of measures. Are you, what is the overall situation? Were you expecting this kind of, you know, according to Shahid Sahib, this happens every 2-3 years. Why is the provincial government not prepared? Is it a lack of resources? What is the overall situation?
Thank you so much. And I was waiting that PTV World, when you people will take my interview. You know that. Hello.
Gigi, I can hear you. I can hear you, Farah.
Yeah. You know, the spell of monsoon, we are facing this since last month, 12th of June, and now still this spell is going on. And, you know, like PDMA is very active. All the departments, institutions, government of Balochistan, on the instructions of Chief Minister, the team members, the stakeholders, Army, FC, PDMA, they all are high alert and they are in the field. You know why we are facing this problem? Because there was, in previous government, no long-term planning was there. So now we are taking the best initiatives in the interest of the public. One, long-term planning, that how we can recover and how we will manage the next year, the natural disaster. Of course, we cannot stop natural disaster, but we can make long-term planning so we can overcome the damages. And the second, you know, the encroachment is a big problem. So the instructions from Chief Minister and then the implementation. on time. Then third, unawareness of the public. We are also, like the campaign is going on through different platforms like electronic media, social media, and the SOPs that how public can save themselves during flash floods.
Farah, have you seen overall the role of the federal government in terms of the kind of help that they can give, the kind of assistance that they can give? We also saw the Prime Minister himself visit the areas today. You think that overall that you have the kind of assistance that you would have liked? You are getting the kind of help from the federal government? Are you satisfied?
Yes, we are very much satisfied because this is the fourth or fifth tour of Prime Minister to Balochistan, Gwadar. And today he was on visit and, he monitored himself all the areas and he was in the area of Jhalmaksi and he interacted with the people himself. And and he also announced a compensation for the casualties, 10 lakh for each family. And the provincial government, previous days, 90 casualties were there. Now it's 120. So provincial government announced 10 lakh for each family. And now, the funds released by the Chief Minister and the relief funds also released to the district administration, commissioners and DCs. And PDMA is high alert and all the teams, they are in the field. And the helicopters M117 also participating in rescue and relief operations.
Farah, of course, I mean, you're talking about the role of the other, the last government, but in Balochistan, but at this time, in terms of 2 years from now, again, 3 years from now, God forbid, if we see these kind of disasters, if we see this kind of flood happen, are you preparing for that also? Is the provincial government preparing for that eventuality? Of course, right now you're in the midst of this crisis, but is there a plan to, perhaps safeguard for any future disasters also as far as the PDMA is concerned, perhaps to empower them more, perhaps to, whatever measures you feel need to be taken in that context. Are you working towards that also?
Yes, we are working for that also. And I am here in Islamabad receiving some delegations, and this is the instructions by Chief Minister to engage international organizations and expertise so we can plan and we can make long-term planning to overcome a situation like this. And any disaster, phase one is rescue, then relief, and then after that, the process of rehabilitation will start. We have to overcome the rehabilitation. That the main issue of Balochistan, we are facing law and order situation, and that is because of we are underdeveloped. So we have to overcome the rehabilitation process, and we have to fulfill the damages of the people, and we are working on that. I'm receiving the delegations, and we will engage international NGOs, and we are also requesting federal government, and Prime Minister is also there, and NDMA is also supporting, and the provincial governments of Sindh, Punjab, KP, they are also offering their support. So we will, inshallah, very soon we will recover and we will overcome the rehabilitation.
In terms of the worst hit areas, Lasbela, Jhalmaksi, the Turbit districts also, which ones would you say are worst hit during this national disaster that we are seeing? Ji, can you hear me?
Hello? Ji,
Farah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Ji, which districts would you say are hit, perhaps worst hit during this flood that's happened, and as far as the people are concerned, the way they've been stranded, the way they've been affected overall?
3 districts nowadays. We are facing critical situation there: Jhalmaksi, Kech, Turbat, and Lasbela.
And you're saying that overall, as far as you're happy with, satisfied, sorry, is the right word, with the efforts that and the help that you're getting from other provinces, the federation.
Yeah, we are, of course, we are very much satisfied. The assistance provided by federal government and the provincial, especially the Sindh government. They also offered us for their support. But I really like.
Unfortunately, she's not. I can't hear her. Ji, Yasir, moving on. Let's talk about the political situation as far as the impact of speaker slot is concerned. We were earlier talking about it. What do you feel as far as the legal recourse that PMLN has chosen to go to court, I understand, against the speaker election? How do you look at that?
Well, first of all, I feel that putting out serial numbers on ballots, that was something that was highly improper. However, it can't be challenged in court.
It's a secret ballot, so if they put up serial numbers, isn't that compromising that? Why would
it is, but that's a procedural irregularity, and 69 mutatis mutandis applies to provincial assemblies as well. Article 69 of the Constitution, that is.
Right.
So from a legal perspective, I would be very surprised that the court would actually intervene and come down in favor of PMLN in this.
But the secret ballot is a part of the Constitution?
Secret ballot per se is not, but it is, one could see that in the penumbra of the Constitution, that there is, secret balloting is something that is required, but I think in terms of, if you look at the Constitution itself, it doesn't say precisely that that's what you have to do.
Okay, however, so in this case it's not interpreting the Constitution, it's just a procedural, you're saying a procedure of the election which they've challenged or they've gone to court over.
Precisely. So
okay, and you don't see interference.
That 69 is very clear on that. Any procedural irregularity, that the court can't interfere in.
Okay, but overall, as far as what's happened in Punjab, as far as the speaker slot is concerned, as far as, of course, the fact that there were serial numbers shows that there was some lack of confidence there, which prompted serial numbers to be there. So overall, how would you rate the government in Punjab at this time, considering that it's 10 members and of course, but then you have to look at the federal government also and the numbers here also. So overall, how are you looking at the situation in terms of, just it's a few numbers, it's a few seats, so to speak, that have made it either way, right? Very close.
Yes, hanging by a thread, essentially, but that's been the case all throughout the last 4 years, since 2018. It's been hanging by a thread. This government right now in Punjab is definitely hanging by a thread, and given that they had to put on serial numbers on the ballots, that shows that they have absolutely no confidence in their own legislators.
Right. Let me go to Ali Salman Sahab. Ali Salman Sahab, we've now know that the Chief of Army Staff appealed to the US to interject as far as our funds from the IMF is concerned. Certainly the situation isn't great as far as the dollar is concerned. How do you look at the situation in the next couple of let's say months, and also considering the fact that political instability is something that doesn't seem to be going anywhere? So how do you look at in light of that, what's going to happen in your opinion?
Well, I think first of all, MAHRUKH, I would like to say that I was surprised that we had to go to that level where the Chief of Army Staff had to make a call to the US government. I think we have a democratic government in place, and all such actions should be initiated by the government itself.
But you also have, unfortunately, an opposition which is talking about a cipher and talking about a conspiracy against the same US, who you have to appeal to for funds to make.
I mean, that is their politics, obviously. So I'm not going to comment on their politics right now. But I think as far as the government is concerned, as far as the economic crisis is concerned, the crisis is real, and that has roots in political instability, yes. But it also has roots in greater economic issues and economic structure that we have been nurturing for the last
Ali Salman Sahab, we are just looking at this time till now. It's been since April we've seen the vote of no confidence, and pursuant to that, we are only seeing this. Well, they did this, and this was wrong because of how they left things, which is what is the situation on the ground, and this is what we saw the Prime Minister also say when he came in and he said, look, the situation is really bad.
I think the government, the PDM government and Miftah Ismail had golden opportunity in, I would say, the first 100 days when they took over, and that is already closed, to actually make significant course corrections as far as the IMF program was concerned. It was suspended. And it was very clear to everyone that the only sort of path to rescue in the short term for Pakistan economy is through a reinstatement of IMF program. And unfortunately, we wasted a lot of time. And even after wasting all of the time, we are still sort of unclear about certain outcomes, certain paths. And I believe that that clarity is now there. And but I still want to see, like for instance, State Bank coming on board. As far as the next few months is concerned, I'm cautiously optimistic, and the reason of optimism is that I think the numbers as far as the meeting the external finance is concerned, that is the major challenge for the government, has been more or less secured. Okay. And I would like to say that I'm also surprised at how IMF has introduced new terms, for instance, this $4 billion from our friendly countries. I think that was uncalled for, and government had already made.
Why do you think the IMF is being so hard on us? Let me come back to you, sure. Asif Saab. Asif, does it have to do with the conspiracy theory? You think it has to do with the cipher? It has to do with why? Why is the IMF being so hard on us this time?
I think when you don't have anything of substantive to show to the people that this was our performance, then you use their sentiments. Okay. So this is what Imran Khan is doing. It is very hard to buy any argument of Imran Khan at the moment.
But the damage, do you think there's a potential damage to it? That's my question as far as the IMF is concerned. Us asking the US on the one hand, please help us with these funds. On the other hand, saying that, of course, the former Prime Minister of Pakistan saying that, US intervened.
Actually, the problem is deep-rooted. Okay. What we must understand is the fact that without political stability, you cannot achieve economic stability. And what we are doing with our politics is very much in front of everyone. We are actually playing with the politics. Every time a political government comes into the power, we people think that haze of uncertainty is over. But every time it accomplishes the opposite, unfortunately. So if there is no political stability, you cannot stabilize your economy.
If at this time we would have had a PTI and Imran Khan Saab saying that, look, the vote of no confidence happened, his narrative, whatever it was, whether it was the conspiracy or not.
And dare I say that this is actually the outcome of the policies of Imran Khan. But if the rhetoric of Asad Umar has actually eviscerated our economy.
As an alternative to what's happened till now, if Imran Khan would have said that I'm going to bring my people, we are going to sit in the National Assembly, we are going to criticize the government legitimately on their policies, we are going to be an effective opposition. What would have happened in your opinion? Do you think our people are mature enough to perhaps deal with that, or do you think that we as people, I mean as an electorate, you think people need that kind of narrative?
How can I say that people are not mature enough? How can I say? But at the same time, I cannot say that they are mature enough. Okay. They have been, they are, and I am afraid they will be exploited in the near future, in the time to come.
You think we would have had the IMF? Okay, let's sort of, I mean, I know that you have no way of knowing this for a fact, but, it's guesswork, it's all up in the air at this time.
I think all political parties should sit in the parliament and they should have a charter of economy.
You think as a country we can afford the on the roads narrative?
There are two shades. Some steps should be taken at the earliest.
Populist narrative, is that what we can call it?
Populism at its worst, really.
So whenever we say that any political party is choosing to go on the roads, or any political party is choosing to to bring the people out, and the kind of across the board we are seeing, as far as Punjab is concerned, we saw what happened today. I think there's a statement from one of the former ministers saying that if a federal minister comes there, I don't know if he'll be allowed to go back. Things like this, overall, with the centre and the province at this time, that's not going to fuel any stability. And are you going to, if in that kind of a scenario, is the dollar going to go further? Is the rupee going to go further down? The dollar going to rise, Salman Saab?
Let me comment briefly on the Charter of Economy, because I think it has been in the news and in recent discussion in the media is also coming again. I tend to disagree with my colleague Asif here, and I think in a competitive democracy where different political parties have different preferences when it comes to manifestos and allocation of resources, it is very difficult to make them agree on a Charter of Economy. Okay. Yes, we can make them agree on, let's say, a broad constitutional framework and issues of governance. So that is the constitution we have. But otherwise, the political parties do have preferences. And I would like to see that unfolding further. Ultimately, look,
you're saying that the basic, as far as basic policy is concerned, isn't it true as an economist that Pakistan needs a kind of basic policy for another 10 years, for another 15 years?
Well, actually, if you look at the policy as a default level, you may be surprised to see that we have adopted many policies and remain consistent over last 20 or 25 years. Okay. Those policies may be wrong policies, but still we have remained consistent. For instance,
so you're saying essentially what the last government was doing is what this government is also doing?
Yeah, let's say last 4 governments. Okay. For instance, look at the tax policy. So each government comes in and say that we are going to give a tax target to FBR regardless of the situation in the economy, and none of the government actually did any serious reforms in the tax, including the PTI government, the previous PMLN government and the current PMLN government. They have not done any reforms. But on the other hand, for instance, the social welfare component, Benazir or Benazir Income Support Program or Ehsaas Program started in 2008 and is the same thing. Right. And so you can energy policy, for instance, same issues have been there. So actually there is a kind of a consistency on bad policies. Okay. And there is not much correction in the policy roadmap. So that's what I'm saying is important that the Parliament take these issues in hand.
But Parliament, that's what I want to come to. Yasir, Parliament take these issues. Parliament at this time is there's no Parliament effective opposition in the Parliament at this time. So if you talk to the government of today, they say that as far as major issues are concerned, they can't really legislate on them because there is no participation from the PTI at this time. If you talk to PTI, they say that last time their hands were tied because they had allied parties and they had to, they didn't have the numbers. So are we going to have the same, so the root of it is political stability, is it not, Asif Saab?
Sorry?
Is the root of it not political stability then? If we are going to be talking about the fact that last government couldn't do it because
I think it doesn't relate with the actual numbers or what is going on within the Parliament. It relates to the overall attitude of the political parties.
Okay.
Whether or not Imran Khan is, it doesn't matter whether or not Imran Khan is in the Parliament.
But Imran Khan is saying at this time that he doesn't want to play at all. He's
every party says same thing, only their positions are changed. No, when they are in the government, they utter one thing. When they are in the opposition,
true?
They say the other thing.
The PDM was part of the Parliament. I mean, they didn't say we're resigning, we don't acknowledge this government, we don't agree with this government, there is no government, we don't agree with, I don't know the exact words, I'm sure you can correct me, but as far as the PTI is concerned, they
that's what let me elaborate my point. That's what I was saying, that we are in dire need of Charter of Economy. By Charter of Economy, I never meant that each and every detail should be there, but some basic principles should be there, that what we people are going to do with our economy in next 10 or 25 years, or 10 or 15 or 20 years. This will boost confidence in the investor.
As far as Charter of Economy is concerned, I've been talking about it for a while in my program, and we've been, even when the last government was in place, the point is, can there be a Charter of Economy without a kind of political...
At least they should sit.
A working relationship.
They should sit, they should discuss, and after that if they come up that we cannot have such a charter, that's very good.
But Imran Khan doesn't want to sit with them. He says, I don't want to sit with them, I don't acknowledge
Imran Khan is not part of the problem.
Okay.
Sorry, Imran Khan is not part of the solution. Imran Khan is part of the problem. And I'm very sorry to say that from the first day, Imran Khan emerged in Pakistani political Nikki as a political leader. Only anarchy, unrest and political instability is the outcome of every adventure of the gentleman. From the aptitude of Imran Khan, it is quite evident what name he has chosen for his political movement, tsunami. Tsunami is a sign of destruction. Tsunami is nothing that relates to building the nation.
You know, Yasir, as far as these resignations are concerned, let's talk about them. 11 resignations have been accepted. Can we afford by-elections, like these kind of piecemeal by-elections at this time, when one of the demands by PTI is they want general elections? Can we afford a general election at all, considering the fact that we have not had an okay from the IMF yet? I think it's end August, if I'm not wrong. Yeah. And then also the FATF is also formally pending. Are we going to have a general election before, you know, after that, before that? What is the timeline? Is it possible at all? And then, you know, doing these piecemeal resignations, accepting them, and then going for by-polls also. Do we have the kind of money that is needed for all of this kind of adventure, I would say, at all?
It's, I believe, and this is something that, you know, I have on good authority, that people in the know say that the PMLN government, there are people within the government who are very clear that they're not here to win the next election.
Yes.
They're here to save the country. You know, that is something, that is definitely the sentiment.
I think we had if I'm not wrong, there was a statement by Miftah Ismail that said that, you know, if it costs us one election, it's only one election. And, you know, when they came in, they had to actually make the decisions, which is what I think Ali Salman Saab is saying. He's saying that those decisions happened later. But the point is, you know, when they came in, the kind of subsidies that we saw that had been taken, and, you know, they withdrawing those subsidies at political cost.
The subsidies, now, I was talking to someone from another country actually, and they're like, your Prime Minister, and he was referring to Mr. Imran Khan, should be tried for treason because of what he did with the subsidy situation. This is what, you know, because he was an economist. That's what he said. He's like, this is extraordinary that you would allow a populist actually to make a complete muck of things when it comes to economy. So I think that what PMLN is doing right now is something that history will probably give them credit for, but they're probably going to lose the next elections.
I hope that they actually do it.
I think that maybe our people will be able to understand these decisions better. We have no way of knowing what happens as far as the next election is concerned. But as far as, let's talk about, you know, the foreign funding case and the way that is now being exposed in international media. We're also seeing statements coming from PTI leaders as to what can ultimately happen if those are proved. What would you say to that? Legally, what is the standing of PTI as a political party? We've also seen the Prime Minister say that, you know, that if these assertions are wrong, then Imran Khan should file defamation against Financial Times.
Yes.
How do you look at that situation?
Well, as far as the Financial Times story is concerned, it is very, very damaging if you think about it. In terms of what would happen if the ECP was to find PTI guilty, it's very clear it's going to be a disqualification of the party itself. The party is going to be denotified. And that, I think, will, for the time being, be an end to PTI, to the tsunami that we are facing for the last 4.5 years. And I completely take Mr. Asif Saab's point on this. Tsunami is destruction. Sorry to sound bitter, but and as far as Imran Khan, I am willing to bet that Mr. Imran Khan is not going to sue Financial Times, because I think Financial Times did their due diligence and they came up with a story. I mean, that's just my view.
But if that happens, overall, as far as a political party is concerned, Salman Saab, isn't that true that, you know, we will see another effect of that, and that will also come as far as economy is concerned? Because if that does happen, and legally it may be the only option, it may be the right option, it may be the only, you know, as far as the Election Commission is concerned. We've also seen a request by, not a request, but, you know, as far as the PTI is concerned, they're saying they don't want to go into the next elections until the Election Commissioner is changed also. So overall, we expect more upheaval, and in that kind of scenario, you said you're cautiously optimistic even then.
Yes, I mean, my assumption is of that optimism is that this political sort of equation will continue for, let's say, another year, and the current administration will actually be able to complete its tenure. Right. And while the legal option of denotification of PTI, I think the legal experts can comment on that better. But I think the government is going to weather the storm. There will be a political storm upcoming. We are already passing through a political storm, actually. And this is also the test of the leadership, and not just political leadership, but also the overall national leadership. And I think it's also a test of the constitution itself. I mean, the way the constitution is designed currently, it gives a sort of a balance of power between the provincial governments and the federal government. So I think I'm focusing on that, and I'm looking at that despite of the political instability which is there. You're absolutely right, but I'm hopeful that we'll be able to.
It's also a test of the courts. No, Asif Sahab, as far as our judiciary is concerned, because we've had to go to court on every interpretation. We've had to, we have one party or the other going on everything. Like speaker election is another thing where we have the PMLN going to court and asking them. And so there's going to be interpretations. We've had the Article 62 interpreted by the Supreme Court. In that kind of scenario, as far as these by-elections are concerned, what do you expect at this time? If they go forward,
more legal conundrums, more legal questions. There are so many reasons. As a student of law, I have my own questions. I wonder why the case of foreign funding is not yet decided. Imran Khan, as a matter of policy, has made every institution a punching bag.
Because at this time,
when Election Commission will decide this case, number one question. Question number two is, can we have a monitor judge like we had in the case of Nawaz Sharif in Panama case? When the case was on Panama and he was disqualified by the way on Akama. So there are so many questions. And another question is that why Parliament is so reluctant to legislate the issues related to the functioning of the Supreme Court. But how the bench shall be formed. Who is there to decide whether or not to take a suo moto? The power actually rests with the Supreme Court.
But do they need a simple majority?
It has been and it is being exercised only by the Chief Justice of Pakistan. What matter actually comes under the ambit of the matter of public interest or not? So there are so many things that Parliament should legislate. If there is vacuum, there is discretion. If there is discretion, there is problem. There should be no discretion. Whether this is President, this is Prime Minister, or this is Chief Justice. Most of the things should be codified by the Parliament, within the Parliament.
Yeah, sir, do we need a simple majority for that legislation, or do we need a 2/3 majority? How does that work?
Well, as far as 184(3) is concerned, that is a particularly odious, and I'm sorry to say, but very particularly odious provision of the Constitution, because it has been misused again and again, starting sadly with Chief Justice Iftikhar Chaudhary. We've seen how it's been misused. So you need a 2/3 majority to actually change the Constitution, amend it, and then bring some sort of appeal process, and to basically limit the jurisdiction. At this moment, anything and everything can be taken into the ambit.
But as far as the Supreme Court itself is concerned, are we seeing, we were talking about that, as far as, are we seeing issues within that also? Because, it is exposing certain sides within the Supreme Court also, the higher judiciary. So that is another, do you think that's another storm brewing? What do you expect?
And it's absolutely there, and it's going to be very interesting, because as an advocate, I am obviously a little cautious about what I can say and can't say.
Yes, I understand that.
But I think that unfortunately at this time there is a clear division within the Supreme Court.
Okay.
Yeah.
But what do you expect as far as the reluctance of the Parliament is concerned? Like I said, 184 you're saying. Do they need a simple majority for it, or do they need 2/3 majority? Because they don't have, and that would be 2/3 majority of the whole Parliament.
Of the whole Parliament. And then you have to pass the...
May I say something on this? If Parliament is going to change the Constitution, it needs 2/3 majority.
Right.
But at the moment, the function of the Supreme Court is being supervised by the Supreme Court rules. And those rules can be changed by simple majority. Parliament doesn't need a 2/3 majority to address all the questions that are being raised by the parliamentarians at the moment. Formation of bench, The rules can be made by the Parliament with simple majority.
Supreme Court actually makes its own rules.
Yes, Supreme Court actually make its own rules, but it has no bar on the Parliament to make some regulations. Parliament can do. Parliament is the body to legislate. Parliament can legislate until it is against the supremacy or you say freeness of the Supreme Court. Parliament can do this. Parliament doesn't need 2/3 majority as far as the rules and procedures are concerned.
But it seems like there is a move towards, I mean, has been talk about that. Do you think it's going to happen? What's your take on this, Yasir?
I think it needs to happen, but what's going to, more likely what's going to happen is that even if there is a constitutional amendment, it would be struck down.
By the Supreme Court again?
By the Supreme Court.
Why?
Because
of the 2/3 majority issue? Why? On what basis?
So the objectives resolution.
Okay.
And the independence of judiciary. There's a number of devices that the Supreme Court can use and say our independence is at stake, the trichotomy of powers is at stake, and therefore we're going to strike down this amendment. It would be very sad, it would be absolutely against every norm of, but that is something that is possible, and the 18th Amendment case was all about that.
Right, and of course at some point, there's been talk about all stakeholders sitting together. Do you think that things may actually come to that? Because, like you said, it's a judiciary, whether it's the Parliament. We are seeing an across the board election commission is now also, under fire, so to speak. So there seems to be, are we heading in that direction? Do you think there's a chance it might happen? What's your take on it?
As far as the amendment to the Constitution is concerned, I think there is certainly will amongst the politicians, at least and I think if not now, then I don't know when, because I think both parties on both sides of the aisle realize that at this time there's unfettered, unstinted discretion that the Supreme Court enjoys, which needs to be clipped.
Right. Unfortunately, that's all the time that we have. Thank you so much for being with us, Barrister Yasir Lateef, Ali Salman Saab, Asif Mahmood. Thank you for being with us. Of course, at this time, as far as political instability is concerned, there has to be a move by all stakeholders towards the kind of political stability that will then lead to economic stability. Because, when we talk about the kind of crisis that we are seeing, the financial crisis, economic crisis, they're both, two sides of the same coin, and if one doesn't happen, the other will not follow. Let's hope that the politicians can think about that, and all stakeholders across the board can actually, acknowledge the kind of working stability that is needed to have a sustainable economic growth, to work towards an economic, a country that is economically independent. Thank you so much for joining us today on Perspective.